If you use one of these, I guarantee you will become a better filmmaker. Absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt. What am I talking about? Vintage lenses. What's up, people? If you're new here, my name's Joe Housley, and we talk about getting cash whilst getting creative on this channel. If you're a beginner filmmaker, one of the best things that you can do, in my opinion, is invest in some vintage glass. And here are the reasons why. When you first start out in filmmaking, you can't afford things that are super expensive. And let's be honest, lenses are those things. They are absolutely outrageous how expensive they are. But what I found over my filmmaking career is actually using vintage lenses has given me an opportunity to develop and become a better filmmaker. Now, let me break it down for you why that is. Recently, I shot a short film called Creative Paralysis, and this is the only tool that I used to shoot that entire film. This is the Canon FD 50 1.2, and this lens cost me around £40. This is a vintage lens that came out around 40 years ago, and it's absolutely incredible, I've got to be honest with you. The reason why I'm such a big advocate of vintage lenses, especially when you're a beginner filmmaker, is because they enable you to differentiate your work, and there's two things that are going to make you stand out. Either you have amazing quality work, or you have work that's differentiated and unique and sets you apart. Now, when you're just getting started, there's an aspect of trying to just learn how to make better quality stuff, but it is hard to differentiate. Taking one of these, a vintage lens, it doesn't have to be this one, it can be any one. Another really great option, which I'm looking at the moment for another short film that I'm going to be shooting with a buddy of mine, is the Helios 44. Again, relatively inexpensive at around £40 to £50. So why should you, as a beginner filmmaker, go out and buy one of these versus, say, a kit lens? These vintage lenses are going to teach you so much. I guarantee they will make you better. The more you use them, you will become better. And the reason for that is because they don't have all the latest up-to-date technology. They're entirely manual. So all of the aperture is done on an aperture ring, and all of the focus is done manually as well. As new filmmakers come into the world of filmmaking now, the tools that are out there make it really, really easy to become over-reliant on things like autofocus. But when you're using things like autofocus all the time, it's actually not allowing you to understand how to properly control your camera. It's like buying a Tesla. You can buy the Tesla and tell it a direction and a location that you want to go to, and it'll take you there and it'll do it for you because the technology is amazing. But you're never going to be able to pass your driving test by getting in a Tesla and punching in a direction. You need to know how to actually control the vehicle. And in the same vein, operating a camera and actually getting the most out of a camera and telling your story with the camera and the associated lenses that you're going to use with it requires you to have full control over that tool. If your ambition is to become a really great filmmaker and go to that upper echelon of, high-end commercial work or narrative work or movies, what you want to be able to do is not just point a camera and create a great frame, but you want to have control of the camera and all of the things attached to it in order to manipulate what's going to happen in the frame to help tell a better story. For me also, I'm a big fan of kind of dirtying the frame a little bit, making things look visually interesting and stimulating beyond the really hyper-clinical aesthetic that you see most of the time. And I think getting some vintage lenses like this or like the Helios are really good options to not spend too much money and get a unique image that's going to differentiate your work from other people's. The recent short film that I shot a couple of weeks back was entirely shot on just this lens here. And I want to just talk a little bit about that and also this lens in collaboration. I'm also a big fan of having parameters in the way that you construct a film. And that doesn't mean being so controlled by the rules of filmmaking that you can't get creative. What I mean by that is having some sort of rules that you stick to, e.g. this video is entirely going to be shot on a locked off tripod, or this film is going to be entirely shot using one focal length, or this film is going to have movement in every single shot, or it's going to be shot in this resolution, or we're going to use a certain type of framing and draw inspiration from somewhere for that framing. I think if you do those things, it makes the whole, especially in a short film or a short advertising piece, it makes the video look cohesive and like it has purpose. You can also use those rules to tell a story and convey a message. One of the cardinal sins I see a lot of rookie filmmakers make is trying to put too many different ingredients into the pot. A really good chef doesn't take absolutely every ingredient and throw it into a pot and put it in a bowl and go, here you go. A chef thinks really carefully about a smaller, curated quantity of ingredients that they're going to put on that plate. And everything has to earn its place and have some sort of purpose, whether that's to complement a flavour or add a bit of visual interest or whatever it may be. And filmmaking is a little bit like that, in my opinion. Sometimes actually bringing some rules in place can help you tell a better story and give you focus as a filmmaker. And this short film used exactly this as a constraint for the film. Everything needed to be in 4:3, everything needed to be on a 50mm, and everything needed to be locked off on a tripod. They were the rules. And in doing that, it really forced you to think a little bit more about how exactly you're going to capture each of those shots and tell a story. In my opinion, investing in some vintage glass is going to force you to work towards a parameter, because you're going to use that one lens in telling a story, because it's going to be one unique characteristic, one unique component to that video. A vintage lens is going to force you to put some parameters in place when you're shooting your next short film or something with it. And I think that can be a really valuable thing to help you progress. Alongside, it will force you to get better, because you won't have the luxury of things like autofocus, because, they don't have them. And for you to become the best filmmaker that you can be, you need to be learning how to drive that car and not just put in the location and let the car drive for you. All right, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel compelled to go and get a vintage lens. As usual, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching these videos. And if you enjoyed them, thought it was valuable, give a little headbutt on that subscribe button. That'd be splendid. I'd really appreciate it. And also check out this video if you want a little bit more information on how you can grow your video business.